4, we continue to track breaking news as Seattle police announcing new plans to fortify its East Precinct.
Yeah, that, of course, has been the epicenter of clashes between demonstrators and police protesting the death of George Floyd for days now, and, of course, protesting against police brutality. We're taking a live look right now, and this is where we saw Q13's Frankie Thompson earlier reporting. This is where we see now maybe about 100 or so demonstrators standing here. The majority of the protests have been happening at 11th and Pine in Seattle, in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood. It looks pretty peaceful right now. For the most part, the protests have been peaceful, although we have seen some violent clashes overnight in the late hours between police and protesters. Q13's Simone Del Rosario tracking tonight's breaking developments and joining us live from the East Precinct there, where we've been seeing some fencing going up to fortify that building from 1938, Simone.
Yeah, you talk about fortifying the building. Well, law enforcement sources telling Q13 News that they are preparing for the possibility that they will not be able to defend the East Precinct. But also this, we know that protesters have been stopped at 11th and Pine, just where you were watching a little earlier. We're about 2 blocks up right now. But as we look at the East Precinct, where we have multiple different agencies from the city of Seattle working right now to put up those concrete barriers, to move out sensitive materials, and to board up those windows, we're learning that officers received an email from the assistant chief that said that the decision has been made to allow demonstrators to march past the East Precinct today, which goes to show why they're working so hard right now to try to fortify that building. We know that the Seattle Fire Department has also been working to look at the fire suppression of that building right now. I watched them as they ran back out of the building and came up here. The fire station is right here at 13th and Pine to help in any way needed. Here's what Chief Carmen Best said about tonight's preparations.
We're not going to evacuate or abandon the East Precinct. We will be hardening the East Precinct facility by boarding up the exterior windows, having the Seattle Fire Department evaluate the fire suppression systems, and applying fire retardants to the building exterior and installing fencing. This is an exercise in trust and de-escalation.
The chief did call on community leaders to help diffuse this situation here. We know that 11th and Pine has become a flashpoint all week, and we've seen what's happened to this point. And the question has always been, how are they going to diffuse the situation happening here as it continues to appear to get worse and worse every night?
Day after day, protesters face off with police on 11th and Pine in Capitol Hill. And more nights than not, it's become a flashpoint.
The standoff situation at the East Precinct is like nothing I've ever seen before. The East Precinct has become a dangerous flashpoint for our community members in many cases and for our officers.
On Saturday night, Seattle police say 6 officers got hurt from objects thrown from the crowd. 2 landed in the hospital. Protesters say police are the instigators.
The response seemed too quick to escalate.
Take off your riot gear! I don't see no riot gear!
The next day, the city ruled police would remove riot gear and minimize presence. But an effort to de-escalate ended the same.
To be taking rocks and bottles and incendiary devices and being injured, there's a feeling of just demoralization.
Retired Seattle Police Captain Richard Belche says officers on the front lines feel unsupported.
Is this the best you can do?
Facing protesters to the front, they wonder who has their back.
They're just dejected and are starting to ask themselves, why are we doing this? If we're in a city right now that it appears truly hates us, why are we doing this? Why don't we just pack up? And that's not a viable solution.
In defending the East Precinct, police tactics are being questioned.
I must hold Chief Best and the department accountable.
I think the police officers are being used as pawns by the mayor's office, and that bothers me. It's that small group that's making it bad for everybody, and at some point, the protesters are going to have to police themselves.
And now police sources say they're preparing for the possibility they can no longer protect the precinct.
Well, back here on scene, we're looking at that East Precinct right now. The National Guard is out there. Seattle Police is out there. SDOT has been helping put in those barricades right now to try to protect the precinct. Again, Q13 obtained an email that went out to officers that said that they were going to allow marchers to go past the East Precinct later today. So we're going to continue to follow these developments here on the ground. We continue to see equipment being taken out of the East Precinct, files taken out of the East Precinct. So we'll continue to watch what happens here. For now, live in Seattle, we'll send it on back to you.